I'm a little sweaty.
Uh-huh.
And I apologize for that because of.
How's the treadmill working out? Bud.
Kaya! Enough.
On?
No, she does, but she's still being annoying. And that's not good. Okay, can everybody hear Alex well? You might need
Hello?
to like yell a little bit.
Will you hear me? It's incredible how fast this chat moves.
Yeah. Oh, mentioned by Alex Perez. Joining us on the hunt to talk about the Hollywood strike. Okay, I'll retweet that real quick. Okay. Go. Ladies and gentlemen, friend of the show, Alex Press is here. Writes for Jagaban. Has had what would you say, words or bylines? No, like in the New York Times.
Yeah, bylines.
Bylines in the New York Times and every other fucking outlet in the goddamn country. One of the most prominent labor reporters in the nation. Here she is.
Fresh from the picket line.
Fresh in the picket line. You just speak a little bit close. Get it? Yeah, get closer and speak into it. She is picking up your mic, not hers.
What?
I can't turn her gain up. Yeah, no, it's fine. This is every single person has like a different audio, like different voice. So unfortunately, it is. Oh, the noise gate is on. Here, let's turn off the noise gate, and then you should be fine now.
Speak directly into the mic.
Yeah,
Thank you,
good.
chat.
You're good. You're good. You're good.
Okay.
It'll basically pick up whatever even if you don't speak super loudly.
Okay.
Now all the audio perverts in the chat are going to go, oh, there's an echo. Whenever we talk about, whenever we like watch a video, it'll hear it from your microphone. And then they'll say, echo, echo. There's no way to make every single person happy. Anyway, Alex, you're here. You came to Los Angeles, hit me up right as you were coming, and you were like, yo, can I stay at your place? Do I still have a place to stay if I come and cover the strikes? And I was like, of course. And you've been writing nonstop. And you also went to the picket line earlier today. So, give us a little taste of what's going on in the streets.
Yeah. So I was at the Netflix picket line, which is, about a 15-minute ride from here. Kind of
dox me.
Yeah. Heart of Hollywood, basically. And it was packed. I mean, I showed up just after it started, around just before 10. And, you see when you get to one of these picket lines, you see sort of roving little bands of strikers who are covering other gates that are in the area. And then you get towards the center of where the check-in is, and there was just incredible music and so much energy, and actors were very excited. It's an interesting dynamic because everyone was saying to me, I was doing interviews with both writers and actors, and everyone was like, people, the studios, the producers did not count on how much solidarity we would have with each other. If the writers are flagging, now they have new life in them because of the actors. And the actors, meanwhile, haven't been on strike in a very long time. Pretty much any actor on the picket line has never been on strike. And so they are walking beside writers. They are learning what it looks like, the basic nuts and bolts. Where do you use a bathroom? Who do I check in with? Like, who gives me a sign? What should I say if a reporter talks to me? And so this energy is incredibly sort of palpable and actually visible on the picket line. And they're right that the studios did not expect this, right? They always expect the writers to strike. The Writers Guild has struck.
Those fucking commies.
Yeah, exactly. They're like the Wobblies at this point. They did not expect, buddy, you must stop biting me.
No, she thinks that you will play with her if she shoves that
I'm working.
disgusting rope.
We're talking about
Yeah, don't even pet her. Kaya,
okay, all right.
Leave it. Kaya, get away. Go. Go.
Oh.
Go. No.
Mm-mm.
Okay. If you don't pay attention to her, she'll go away.
Anyway, so the energy was very good. People feel very happy to be on strike because, the one thing I asked everybody is, why is this worth it? Because it's a huge amount of sacrifice that the writers have been making, that the actors are about to make, and of course, all of the other people who work on shows and movies, as well as the entire, surrounding economy. Everyone in this town is reliant on this industry. But people had very quick answers. They said, we haven't been able to make it work financially for many years. So this is not a question of how are we going to get through this strike. It's like we've been saying this for a long time, and finally we are standing up and doing what we can, which is actually show the studios how much we're worth.
Yeah. It looks pretty big. I saw the photo. I mean, this is like an even larger crowd outside of the Netflix studio than the one that we attended and saw when we visited the Writers Guild picket a couple weeks prior. It seems great. It seems like they're. I mean, for those of you who are watching who are unfamiliar, if you didn't watch that coverage, you can check it out on my second channel as well, where we go into like the reasons as to why people picket, and also on top of that, how you are supposed to attend a picket line, where you sign up, all that sort of stuff. But were there, I mean, I've covered it so much at this point that like, I don't know what other angles to cover. Like, I mean, it seems like it's overwhelmingly positive, the reception. Even trade publications that are normally awful are covering that kids are chanting strike from the school buses they pass the Fox Studios in Hollywood today.
That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, you could barely hear over the horns honking. Like, it seems like everyone in this town understands, that this needs to happen. Also, one thing that I think people should understand, and you've probably talked about this, is like people hear actors are striking and they think like Tom Cruise. They think celebrities, people that you would want an autograph from or something. Most of these working actors are working second jobs. These are people who are photographers and waiters, and they are copywriters, and they have normal person jobs, because this industry for a long time has not been sustainable for working actors. And so the average actor in SAG is not a, the 1% of the membership, but they sort of do all of the work that enable that kind of stardom, right? And so these are regular working class people, and they talk like regular working class people. They talk to me about how they couldn't afford to fix their car right now, how their rent, what their rent is in East Hollywood. These are not people who own mansions, right? And so I think that is important to understand, that this is the vast membership of, 160,000 people. These are workers like any other, right? And I think that's really important to stress. I'm sure people want to hear about like what celebrities were there. And I didn't see anybody that was recognizable, which was sort of the point, right? Though that said, I met up with Adam Conover from the Writers Guild. And so we spent a long time on the picket line, and, it was incredible to see, he's a recognizable guy for his work, but also now just as a union leader. And it was cool to see that in action, especially with actors from SAG coming up to him and sort of them comparing notes and sort of chatting about what to expect. That was great.
Yeah. There are some questions in the chat about what's going on. Have there been any updates from the SAG-AFTRA side of the conversation in terms of negotiations, like what the demands were? And because like right now we have kind of an overview and maybe even an assumption of what the demands were, like stopping the insane practice of utilizing artificial intelligence to like take a snapshot of a background actor and then utilizing their likeness in perpetuity for 1 day's pay. Things of that nature certainly have been discussed. But do we have a better understanding of what the demands are?
Yeah, so they want to regulate that technology, right? Whereas the AMPTP wants to do exactly what you said. They offered background actors in one of their proposals. They will get a full day's rate pay to be recorded, and then they will have their likeness used forever without any, residual payments, things like that. Really sort of egregious in that, like, imagine you lose control of your own voice and your own body. I think people palpably understand how terrifying that is. And it also puts an entire set of workers out of work permanently.
Yeah.
Residuals are another very complicated, big thing. Writers also have this issue that streaming platforms don't provide them anywhere near as much money in residuals. as sort of linear or cable used to. And so that's, you wrote for, say you appeared on It's Always Sunny. I was talking to an actor today who was, she's appeared on just about everything you've heard of, right? And she appears, if it's a regular broadcast, every time when it reruns, she gets a payment and residuals. When it's syndicated, she gets a payment, and on forever, basically, right? When it comes to working, whether you're writing or acting in streaming shows, your payment for that residual is very small. It's not based on, you have a hit show, so it's bigger, right? The formulation is just it's like pennies compared to what cable was. And so the actors also have a proposal around this. They have proposed something the writers didn't, which is, I got to dig in the details after we get off this stream to make sure I have it right. But they want a cut of the subscription revenue that is being made by these streamers. And that would be an entirely new form of residual. Yeah.
And I think it's super valid to ask for that. It's ironic because a space that is not even unionized has and is probably even less likely to be unionized is the space that I'm in. Streamers,
yes.
Not in the Hollywood understanding of streamers, but Twitch streamers and YouTube streamers, or even content creators online. YouTube technically gives us, and I believe Twitch technically gives us a cut of the overarching YouTube Premium revenue. The amount of ads that are displaced by YouTube Premium. YouTube Premium is a $15 subscription to YouTube that allows people to no longer see the ads. Same with Twitch subscriptions. There's a concept called Twitch Turbo. It's similar to that. It stops you from seeing ads. And all of the ads that your viewers who are Turbo subscribers don't see on your page technically give you them. They didn't see the ad because they bought Turbo, so it literally gives you a piece of that, which is interesting because the online space is not necessarily known for its serious labor protections, but it is actually an absolute necessity in the internet sphere.
Right.
So much so that YouTube and Twitch, owned by Amazon and Google, mega corporations, have recognized it as a necessity.
I mean, but it's a necessity because you are creating the value, right? And so it is for them, they'd much rather, sort of take the pay cut of whatever the percent they're giving you compared to having to hand over, anything else that, you guys, if you left the platform, right, they would lose a whole lot more money than they're giving to you. And so it's not outlandish to say that, hey, streaming is a different model for these studios, and we all have been going through this transformation and has completely changed the model of the industry. And thus, we have been creating this new product, this new value, and you're now going to see how much you're losing with this strike. And we should get, they're not asking for a lot of it. I mean, it's very reasonable. It's 2% is pretty much the equivalent of how much they're asking for, 2% of sort of how much they're making off of these streaming platforms. But that is a new form of residual, and it was clear when it came out that they were proposing that at the table that this was going to take a strike to win, because the studios, obviously everyone knows, producers penny pinching, they're not going to give them any money unless they're forced to. And then there's also, they want raises because of inflation. They feel like they're making less than ever on the scale day rates. They want, they have a health and pension fund hole to fill as far as contributions for the health insurance plan and pensions. So the more nuts and bolts stuff, that's pretty familiar to everyone. And then, AI and residuals, I think, are really the big issues that are similar with the writers, but they're sort of a more immediate threat, especially AI for the actors.
Yeah. And it's also the more, interesting part of the conversation from the perspective of, the audience outside looking in.
Right.
The AI displacing regular parts of the industry is an inevitability at this point. It's already started happening in every field and every sector, and it will continue to happen. And it's not technological improvements that are the problem here. I am not a Luddite, even though ironically Luddites historically were anti-tech for labor reasons.
Right.
I love technology, but the issue is how power is distributed in the workforce. When you have new technological improvements under a capitalist organization of the economy and a capitalist corporation, the bosses utilize that new tech to displace workers and make the remaining smaller workforce do the work of like 7 people, 8 people, 9 people instead. And that is how AI is also being utilized in this circumstance. That's part of the reason why Hollywood has moved away from practical effects to CGI, because VFX is also historically non-unionized, and VFX can be done all around the world, so you can get much cheaper rates instead of having an entire makeup team, instead of having an entire like lighting team. You can just fix all of that in VFX.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I would say about like the question of technology is that this is not new for Hollywood, right? For the industry. When VHS was, sort of coming around, being invented, there was, the home televisions. This also was a strike issue for these unions. And they actually, in the 1960 strike, is when they won the original residuals for cable, right? They were like, hey, we know that this is going to end up being a huge source of profit for you. We deserve some sort of payment as you're reusing our materials. And then when the writers struck in 2007, it was the same thing. This was how they won jurisdiction over any of the streaming platforms, period.
Yeah.
The AMPTP, before that strike started, said, oh, the internet, like, we don't really know how that's going to shake out. Let's just, like, set a meeting to talk about it. And the writers, smartly, because they're not new to this, they were like, no, we need it in writing now that this is going to be union work and that it's going to contribute to, our scale and our pension funds. And so they are fighting for the future, and they've been proven right again and again. And so they are very right to say, hey, we know this technology is going to be incorporated. Let's talk about how to do it in a way that makes us able to make a living as you make an immense amount of profit. And so I think that is sort of the cycle to understand about Hollywood's like incorporation of technology.
Yeah. And given how short-term interest-driven, short-term profit-driven companies are, and how short-term profit-driven or short-sighted the broader American audience is, the broader American public is, people don't understand that like these strikes are a necessity. Weirdly enough, they don't recognize the successes from the early strikes, like 2008, that yielded necessary returns for those workers in terms of like the value that they're generating. But people don't see that. They're like, whoa, why are you striking about this now? Meanwhile, it's already happening. It's certainly going to get worse in the future as we move further and further towards like a streamer only economy. But it's already a problem. Problem right now.
Right.
So the poor filmmakers, companies don't make any money. I think you're talking about the studios, right? Like,
and I mean, this is the question of like, it is a real question about whether the streaming only model is sustainable financially for anyone. But it is not the workers whose fault it is for any bad investments that these companies made or any pressure they're getting from their shareholders. And the revenue is up way beyond what it's been. There have been a huge number of shows. It is very clear that the money is there. These are not unreasonable demands.
Oh yeah.
The part of the holdout on the studio's part is they don't want to set a precedent that they will cave on certain things. And so that is kind of the crux of it. But the idea that there's no money, I mean, it might sound trite to say like these CEOs are paid $50 million, $100 million, but that's true. I mean, there is money to be had. And so I think that is kind of important. Also, I'm sure people want to hear about like, one thing you'll hear in the news is like, this is going to hurt the whole economy. All of these other types of workers rely on the studios running productions, whether it's a food service, or it's, a restaurant, or it's, the hair and costume designers. But I think it's really important to understand that of those workers who are union, they have been out there supporting these people because they understand that it's the same fight. IATSE and the Teamsters in Hollywood have their negotiations next year, and they know that they need a win here from these other workers to strengthen their own position going forward. And likewise, everybody wants these workers to make enough to spend in the economy, right? I mean, so there's been, on the picket line today, it was very clear. There was just, across the city support. And of course, the actors and the writers they went out and visited the striking hotel workers at Unite here or in the LA area who went out on strike on July 4th weekend, and they're walking beside them on picket lines and they're saying, I don't understand your struggle, but I want to. Let's talk. How can I be there for you? And vice versa. So this idea that like some people deserve more and others are whiners. No one who's on the ground here thinks that, right? I think it's really important to understand that the labor movement is a movement, and so a win one place helps others, and that's the way to sort of think about these things.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, here's a fun little quip about Hollywood accounting. The idea that streamers like Netflix, Paramount Plus, HBO Max, and the like are not actually profitable is a silly one for the most part. These are profoundly profitable institutions. Any kind of lack of profit from said institutions is simply an accounting trick in order to, one, pay their workers less, which has been something that is a practice in Hollywood so much that it's actually, it has its own term, Hollywood accounting, where you write it off as a loss across the board in the creative sector so that other products that you have under your larger conglomerate can look better across the board. You can only do this with a tremendous amount of horizontal and vertical integration and expansion and through corporate consolidation. But that's why you get headlines like Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, new movie disappoints at box office, also does great, cost $500 million but only made $200 million in 3 days, made $499 million worldwide, will never turn a profit because it also costs $1 trillion to market, breaks box office records while sold out theaters remain empty. Like, that's the reason why you hear so much of this.
Right.
From both ends.
It's so confusing, and it is accounting tricks, right? And that has gotten easier than ever now that these streamers are, these studios are vertically integrated, right? And so they are distributing via their streaming platform things they made themselves and licensing deals and all sorts of things like
themselves.
This. Yes, exactly.
Anytime,
make it so hard for any of us to understand. But that is just there is money. It's just moving around a lot in ways that are very hard to understand.
Exactly. It's like when you have, when you have Fox selling a fucking product to Hulu, it's selling it to itself. In certain circumstances, the same executive is signing both sides of that contract. Literally, that same person's signature is on either side of the contract. That's why I have used the example of Twitch with respect to Hollywood accounting. Twitch is owned by Amazon. Amazon has AWS, their web service, their hosting service, right? This is like this is almost the majority of the internet. Oh shit, I just ran the wrong ad break here. Sorry. I'll run a 1 minute at the top of the hour later. But this is Amazon owns the servers that Twitch is on top of, Twitch exists on top of. So technically, if they wanted to, even though they consistently complain that Twitch is not profitable, it's not turning profit, the only reason why Twitch is not profitable is because Amazon chooses to maintain Twitch's lack of profitability so they can dump a bunch of losses in there and get tax benefits from that. Mm-hmm. On top of consistently pay their employees situation. Twitch's profitability is simply a matter of moving some numbers around in an Excel spreadsheet. That's it.
Well said, Hasan. Any other questions for me?
Yeah, I got some. I took some questions from the chat. Are there still ongoing meetings, or are they just literally waiting for the guild to lose steam and break?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, how this works now that the actors are on strike, which is, shocked everyone on the studio side. They really didn't expect that. This is speculation. It's not like I have secret sources that are witnessing these conversations. Generally, what happens is they'll wait a week. The studios will wait a week, and they'll see how much damage is being done, and they'll wait, see which way the wind's blowing. Is the public supporting the actors? Are the actors coming out to these picket lines in mass? What is the vibe basically of this strike? And then it's possible that they would reach out to SAG first. It's unlikely, they're going to go sit down with the writers before they sit down with the actors again. But they're going to start these conversations, right? But it's really hard to say. There's nothing on the calendar right now for new bargaining sessions for either SAG or the WGA. And so this is really the best that the workers can do, is just show that they're serious and that they are ready and they know what they just signed up for and they're going to be out there every day. they're willing to sit down, as soon as they get a call, right? It is not the workers who want a strike. It is the studios that are stonewalling. And so as far as I know, there has been no conversation right now about getting back to the bargaining table. And so, yes, the workers are just waiting. And are the studios hoping the guild will lose steam and break? I mean, if they've been paying attention to how the writers are doing, that's not going to happen, right? It's like they're in month 3 of this strike, and they are still incredibly unified. There's no conversation about like, maybe we should take a deal, we should sit back down. And so I don't think that's going to happen. I think they want to break the unions, and I think they've misjudged whether this is the moment to do it.
Yeah. What's your take on the lose their house comment, since that's sort of the inherent goal of the bosses in any labor action? And I mean, me personally, I guess in all my years of engaging in labor action coverage, have never seen executives so publicly and openly flaunt their genuine interest in what they want to get out of the strike on the capital owner side.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to people on the picket line today about that. And, I think Adam Conover said to me something like, that story came out the same day as it came out that the studios, the AMPTP, wanted to bring in a federal mediator. And it was and there was another story that day along these lines of, to him, it read as panic, right? That the thing he pointed out to me, that is why I bring it up, is he was like, this is the 2007, 2008 strategy where they would just put their comments, whisper them to the press, to the trades in Hollywood, like Deadline and Variety and The Hollywood Reporter. Those would get reprinted. It would be a scare campaign, not tied to anyone's name.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work now, right? They thought this would just run in Deadline and that's that. No, now the whole world sees it. Everyone reacts. It only drives further outrage. The members immediately read about it. And so I think that was a panic. And it was, again, a losing PR strategy and a misjudgment of the moment we're in. Yes, this video.
Well, this is not the OG video. Hold on. I'm going to find the original video. This is his follow-up and his clarification. But
this one, I feel like that one might be it. That looks familiar.
No, that's also from him. So, no. Hold on. Does anyone have the Ron Perlman video real quick that I want to pull up real quick? Because like the lose their house, they should lose their houses, like we'll wait it out until they lose their houses, is coming from a position of comfort. Okay. And you wouldn't openly state your animosity, because a big part of like class solidarity for capital owners revolves around never really revealing their position. Like, oh, we just simply can't do it. Like, the Zaslaw conversation is, or not the Zaslaw, was it Sarandos, the one that went on CNBC and was like, they're just really hurting the economy by not working. That is usually, is it Bob Iger? Yeah, Bob Iger's statements on that is the norm. The idea of like trying to divide pit worker against other workers and say like, well, you don't care about the janitors, like you're hurting all of the other tertiary aspects of this industry, like it's really fucked up you're doing this, is what you normally hear. You rarely ever hear someone go, no, we want you to fucking lose your house, like until you're starving and desperate, right? The only reason why I believe that this came out to this degree is because they feel very comfortable about the power that they do have. They've captured the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has always been historically anti-labor, but even more so in recent years with the supermajority especially, and therefore I think that executives have a level of comfort where they could just like openly state their bloodthirsty desires in this regard. But here was a reaction from a cherished and very famous and relatively wealthy actor, Ron Perlman, which is like a normal way to respond to this. You know what I mean? When you openly admit the antagonism that you feel towards your workers as a boss that is like super well paid, this is going to be the understandable response.
But I will say one thing before I get off this. The motherfucker who said we're going to keep this thing going until people start losing their houses and their apartments. Listen to me, motherfucker. There's a lot of ways to lose your house. Some of it is financial, some of it is karma, and some of it is just figuring out who the fuck said that. And we know who said that. And where he fucking lives. There's a lot of ways to lose your house. You wish that on people. You wish that families starve while you're making $27 fucking million a year for creating nothing. Be careful, motherfucker. Be really careful.
The $27 million a year for making nothing part is actually really great too, because like this is like, I don't think Ron Perlman is a fucking socialist or a Marxist by any means, but that is the correct analysis in that situation. Even though he's a liberal himself, like he's absolutely correct. These executives are not creating the value. All they're doing is directing others to massage the numbers or trying to suppress wages as best as they possibly can in order to generate higher returns or increase shareholder profit. That's all they care about. That's all they will ever care about. Whereas someone like Ron Perlman, regardless of how much money he has in his bank, is a worker in that regard. He is the one who's generating the value. Same as the NBA players unions. When you talk about these high paid athletes, like they are the ones that are making. They are the ones that are generating all the value for those corporations. So make no mistake. Whenever you see someone who is a high-paid wage laborer and you go, oh, what the fuck's he complaining about? There is another person that's making billions of dollars off of their labor, you know?
Yeah.
Myself included. When you look to my situation, you're like, oh, well, Hasan, you make a lot of fucking money. It's like, you shouldn't be advocating for better conditions for Twitch streamers. It's like, okay, yeah, all the money I'm making, Amazon is still making money off of the money that I'm making without actually doing anything, without just simply because they own simply because they own this platform, simply because they own the servers.
Yeah. I mean, and to be clear, like, again, when you talk to these workers in these unions, they're glad that the most famous people are on their side, right? I mean, it's a real achievement of the Hollywood unions that they have taken people who could totally hate fellow workers, anyone who is paid less than them, who isn't famous, and turned them into very proud union members, right? It is a real accomplishment, and it's something that the studios hate, right? It's why they don't want this. They want to break the guilds. And so when you have someone like Ron Perlman saying this, I mean, it's true that he has produced so much more value than he is paid. And, you know, the first few days of the writer's strike, I get quoted. I did an interview with this TV writer, Rajat Suresh, who, you know, gave me a sarcastic quote about like, oh, well, you know, it makes sense that these guys get paid so much, you know, the CEOs, because I'm a Zaslav head, you know, and my buddy, he loves Sarandos. I can't wait to see the new Zaslav show. And he was like, no one has ever said that in their lives, right? These guys.
No, I have. I have. I'm a moderator on the r/neoliberal subreddit, and actually, you're wrong. I do love the numbers crunching that Zaslav did. I'm a big Iger fan. When he lost the contract in India for the streaming rights for the cricket finals, like that was actually a really good move in the long term. Like, because that's ultimately what they're doing.
Yes,
They're directing others to move shit around. They're not making any product. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I would just say, you know, yes, these people are paid a lot, that, you know, the sort of high end, certainly not the vast majority of the membership, whether WGA or SAG, right? These are working class people who take second and third jobs to get by, and they are members of the same union as the rich people, and the rich people are in fact fighting for them. Like the biggest wins and the biggest increases, should their proposals be accepted, would not be for the Tom Cruises of the world. It would actually mean the difference between a house and not a house, or a car payment that actually can be made, and
or healthcare.
Yeah, or healthcare.
86% of SAG-AFTRA union members, the rank and file, do not qualify for healthcare because they need to make at least $26,000 a year in order to qualify for healthcare. And the reason why they can't make $26,000 a year is not because, like, oh man, there's not enough projects out there. It's that there are projects out there, but it doesn't matter because those projects aren't paying them enough.
Yeah.
And that is a gigantic deal. That's precisely the reason why Matt Damon had that quote where he was like, this is a matter of life or death for a lot of these people. It's not just people like Matt Damon, multimillionaires. As a matter of fact, the overwhelming majority is not like Matt Damon. They're just trying to get fucking healthcare for working in this sector.
Yeah. And I'll wrap up because I got to go write an article and eat some lunch. But I'll just say that almost I would say about half the actors I spoke to today also had other jobs, not in the industry, right? And so they almost like when you ask them, like, what's your relation to other types of workers, or like, how do you see yourself as part of a movement? They'd be like, well, I'm a waiter or I'm a photographer. Like, these are people who are just like anybody else. And we want them to be able to make a living at the job they love, but they already know that this dream job isn't going to make them a living. And so they work a regular survival job in addition to it.
Yeah.
And so I think that is kind of the key to keep in mind, and that there's a strategy here that like the Hollywood unions are not new to this about having celebrity members and having the vast majority of working class members. And I think they use, Adam Conover, I think, does this really well, where he has a fairly big following. And so he is being, he sits in a leadership position to make sure that the membership and the public actually can see what's going on in the union. I think that's a very smart strategy. And you'd rather have those people in the union than on the other side. So
okay, I want to show you one last thing that I saw that was like really gross. Does anyone in the chat have that CNN video that we watched? A couple different quick CNN sound bites where they were like talking about how janitors and all these other periphery industries, like they're suffering as a consequence of the selfish workers striking. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to find that, how the Hollywood strikes hurt others. Maybe, let's see. No, I wonder if this is 2 days ago. Wait, what is this? Oh, there's an insane. Oh, there's also the fucking psychotic conspiracies. If you're gonna leave right now, which one do you want? Do you want the psychotic conspiracies or do you want this bullshit?
Psychotic conspiracies.
Okay, we'll cover this bullshit
the ongoing
later.
strike forces that are.
Oh, they brought a British person. Alex and I had this conversation where I told her, like, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I feel like because of how little power overall American unions have in American consciousness, that like American media doesn't immediately have this like gross antagonism that like the British media has towards their labor action.
Right.
Any kind of labor action in England.
To really being threatened by it, so they can be kind of like,
exactly.
Sure, this is fine.
So they brought a British person or an Australian
one. We can watch
I guess.
This one instead of the psychotic one. Let's do that.
Okay, here. So this was some gross coverage, typical. Drive a wedge between working class people as though they are not in identical conditions as it pertains to the relations of the means of production, as it pertains to their bosses not giving a shit about them. Like you think fucking putting forward an undocumented migrant or whatever like that works in a sanitation position in a production, you think that person is getting a good deal from their bosses, the very same fucking bosses? Of course not.
Well, the ongoing strike by the Writers Guild of America is not only
Australian.
affecting movies and television shows, it's also having a significant impact on many behind-the-scenes employees and businesses that are essential to these productions. CNN's Natasha Chen explains from Los Angeles.
Yolanda Sendejas Garcia, a janitor, was laid off from Paramount Studios shortly after the writer's strike began. Fewer productions means less to clean. Nearly 2 months later, she's collecting plastic bottles for cash. She's buying cheaper groceries and says she'll soon lose.
Yeah, they're like, look at these selfish actors.
This should be shame on the studios for doing this to their own employees.
Yeah, it's
this is life and death stakes for that woman, and it is not the workers who wanted this strike.
Yeah, it's like they always conveniently forget that labor action only happens when there are talks leading up to it for months on end, negotiations, back and forth conversations, and labor action that also hurts the very same rank and file members of a union that choose to take this necessary but necessary but also relatively harmful to themselves step, are doing it because the bosses refuse to meet their fucking reasonable ass demands. So it's ridiculous to try to pin the blame here on one side and one side only, when I have said time and time again that if there is a singular individual who could end these strikes, it's never the labor union leaders that are democratically voted on. They literally have to negotiate as best as they can in order to maintain their position within the union. And also, those negotiations, the contract that they bring back to their unions, need to be voted in. They need to be ratified through the rank and file democratically voting on it to end the strike. Zaslav, on the other hand, or Sarandos, could single-handedly stop the strikes by saying, yes, we are going to meet your reasonable demands. We're going to give you a better share of the profits that you are generating for us.
Yeah, I mean, and just in closing, I'll say that you look at that video and it's like, the problem is that there are people who have the power to kick this person out of her home or make sure she can't eat, to make writers lose their houses, their apartments, their cars. I mean, this is the problem. And the answer is that those masses of people actually come together and say, you know what, we're done. No more. We won't take it anymore. And when they do that, that actually chips away at that boss's power for every other worker under their employment, right? So yes, everyone is going through a very hard time right now, and the poorest workers are obviously the most affected. So a janitor at Paramount is going to have this affect her immediately in a way that, say, like a middle class actor isn't. But those actors losing does not help her. And also, they are not the ones who wanted to strike. I mean, they even agreed to an extension because they were so certain that they could find a way through, right? Because they're being reasonable. And so I think when I hear this, it's the blame for the immense amount of suffering that is currently happening, especially in Los Angeles, but certainly now even more so with the actors striking, that only should be adding to the sort of the cost on the hands of the owners of these studios, that it's really just more and more shame on them, I would say.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
with that, I'm going to go get lunch and then write an article. So thank you, chat.
Thank you so much for coming on, Alex. It's Alex Press.
Hi, everybody.
You'll see some of her writing. Where have you revealed that?
No, I won't say the mainstream place, but Jacobin will have an article up that I'm writing today, sometime maybe tomorrow or the next day. And I'm on Twitter. I saw people posting the link.
Yeah.
So enjoy the rest of your streaming.
All right, we'll do. Thank you, Alex. All right.